Washington State's in town, and we're all excited that Ole Miss is in the top five, but now it's time to act like a top five team.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member. We bring in Mike Huseman from the After Dark Network and the Mike Farrell Sports Network to talk about a football game, to say the least. Ole Miss needs to kind of stamp their dominance on this game, and it's weird because there's a lot of Washington State fans that have made the trip to Oxford, Mississippi, as you can imagine. I got text messages all over saying that how well they traveled. So respect to Washington State for that. In the third segment of the show, be sure to comment. Me and Mike will take questions from your comment section. So if you have anything that you want to ask, want to say, what's going on, we'll take care of that. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen. And please give us a like, subscribe, and comment on your way out. And check out a second listen on the network. Every team, college and pro, is available. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every single detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned for the highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Now, one thing before we go to Mike, I do want to point out that it looks like Jalen Braxton is settling into that John Saunders role, and that's something you can look for in this game, is him being kind of the slot corner, nickel safety, whatever you want to call it, the Husky position. That is likely going to end up being Jalen Braxton, and he is starting to trend towards taking that position over and making his own. Ricky Fletcher and Chris Graves is doing a decent job as the field corner, and then Antonio Kite kind of has a similar arc to what Trey Amos went through last year, with you're just hearing his name less and less because not as many balls are going that direction. The athleticism and all of that, it's really working out for him. So anyway, Mike, I think it's interesting that everybody said that the Washington State fans kind of it was 50-50 last night on the square. There's a lot of fans from Wazoo that made the trip from Pullman.
They traditionally have been a team that's traveled well, even back to the Mike Price years of the mid-90s. They would get out there and go wherever the games were, to their credit.
Yeah, and it's I guess that's probably what started up the old Crimson thing, the Washington State flag that's on game day. Yep. That has been to like every broadcast. This is a rabid fan base. And again, all the respect in the world to Washington State. I'm going to say a lot of stuff today about Ole Miss being a top five and needing to win this game convincingly. It is not on Washington State. You guys are going to be fine. But every single interaction I've had with a Washington State fan has been positive.
Yeah, and they're truly in a year zero, losing Jake Dickert to Wake Forest, bringing in Jimmy Rogers, ultra successful coach at South Dakota State. He had to reset this. They lost so many guys. It's about getting guys in the system, which were a lot of his players from last year. They're going to be fine down the stretch, or maybe not down the stretch this year. Moving forward in the future, they're going to be awesome. They're just not there yet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the passing concepts that you can see that Ben Arbuckle put in a year ago, and they're kind of using that because that's what they're really good at, because that's what they did. But they are absolutely abysmal running the football. They are giving up 3 points per drive defensively, one of the higher completion percentages allowed in college football, and gave up 10 yards per play nearly against the Washington Huskies. It's going to be a hard road to hoe for the Washington State Cougars. And it's not through anything that they're doing. They're playing really hard, but right now you have essentially an FCS roster trying to play an FBS football.
Yeah, and looking at their schedule, it's been interesting because they obviously got rolled, in that game against Washington. They beat North Texas, or no, they got rolled by North Texas. They allowed almost 60 points to a G5 team.
Which that was a weird game because Washington State turned the ball over 5 times in the first half. That's what allowed that to happen.
Yeah. And they, beat Colorado State, beat San Diego State.
Beat San Diego State down. Yeah, beat them down.
Yeah. But in talking about beating 2 good G5 teams in San Diego State and Colorado State, that's the level they're at now. They're a pretty good-ish G5 team in terms of nationwide where they're at. Like that's about the baseline for them now. It's not a competitive SEC team.
Yeah, it's one of those things that they would lose by 14 to Tulane. That type deal. Yeah, that's what you're looking at. If they played a clean game, if they did what they did against North Texas, is Katie bar the door. And how about USF just beating the brakes off in North Texas last night in Denton?
Yeah, they really turned it on in the second half. That game was competitive. Then USF got the 4 touchdowns in a row to, pull away, and good for them. That's I think in that game we're looking at 2 coaches who will both probably be P4 coaches next year in Alex Golish and Eric Morris. So good for them.
Yeah, and also USF, I think next week plays Memphis. Either next week or the week after they go to play Memphis.
It is coming up. I know they play them soon. Hold on, I have the schedule here. They play FAU next week at home. Then they go to Memphis the week after.
Okay, so we'll see exactly how that goes. That's the Ole Miss Oklahoma weekend. So another early kickoff where you can get ready for what's going on. So this game, listen, if we're talking about this game after the game, even in the reaction show to this game, something went horribly wrong for Ole Miss because the idea in this game is to get through it so you can have everything in front of you for Georgia and Oklahoma, right?
Yeah. I think talking about this game and what we expect, the spread for this game at 33.5, I think is a very good one. That's about what we would expect the outcome to be. If this is even a 14-point game or less, we're probably saying Ole Miss disappointed in one facet of the game or another.
Yeah, it was a look ahead. We talked about all week that this is a classic trap game and all of that stuff because the Georgia game's out there. You just come off LSU. You're a top 5 team. Trinidad Chambliss is in the top 5 in the rankings for the Heisman Trophy. Pretty much everything adulation-wise is coming in while you're having to concentrate on this G5 game before you can get to the game that is really going to be like one of the deciders of your season.
Absolutely. And looking at that game, we're talking about a Georgia team who is really going to want revenge for last year for how disappointing they looked in that game.
Yeah, and Georgia better be careful because here in about 8 hours, it's no guarantee that they're going to win that game.
No. I did pick them to win. I think you might have been the only one on the show that did pick Auburn. Yeah, like I was the only one that picked Arkansas to cover that one. So, yeah.
So we'll see.
But we might be in the cyclical circle. We might be peak of the Hugh Freeze experience where this is the game they are world beaters.
Yeah, Ole Miss fans who rode the Hugh Freeze roller coaster when he was here realized that there's 1 or 2 games a year where he just puts his guys all together. He might beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa, but he might lose to Memphis in Memphis. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's just up and down. And if this game's up, I think that Auburn could be very difficult. They almost beat Georgia. It took a miracle Brock Bowers touchdown a couple of years ago, and that was a much worse roster that Auburn had than what they have right now. But the key is going to be, can Jackson Arnold get the ball out of his hand? Can he complete the passes to Cam Coleman and stretch that defense? Because Georgia in pass defense this year has not been very good.
No, you hit the nail on the head perfectly. I don't think Auburn is going to be able to run the ball much. That's the one thing Georgia's really good at is run D. Teams that can wing it around are going to have success against Georgia. We just haven't seen Jackson Arnold do that as much as he should have with the receivers they have.
Yeah, should be pretty interesting. All right, when we come back, we will continue to talk about the Ole Miss Rebels and the Washington State Cougars getting ready to kick off today at 11:45 p.m. Central on the SEC Network. We'll talk about some other games around the SEC, and of course, we'll take your comments and questions as well. Remember to put where you're commenting or questioning from. And if you see the mayor of Corinth in Oxford, say hey. Be sure to reach out to him and say, hey, Tom, welcome to the game. Anyway, when we come back, we will talk about all of that. But first, I do want to let you know it's almost the weekend. Well, it is the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. One last time. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more and more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Florida, Dallas Wilson delivered in a big way. He completely bullied the cornerback from Texas en route to a second TD. And when the pressure was on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance might have been a surprise, but Dallas Wilson might be starting a streak. We'll see if he can continue it against Texas A&M. And just like Dallas Wilson delivered for the future Ole Miss Rebel opponent, Florida Gators, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credit. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period runs through November 18th. And the NFL season is finally here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 for $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many different ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or loving diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? FanDuel.com. Visit it to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast and whatever audio podcast you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but keeps all of this free. If you want a little bit more, you can join the Inside program in the subtext link down below. No trolls, 14-day free trial, and the easiest way to ever to cancel, because we'll give it a try. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. All right, Mike, let's talk about this Wazoo game just a little bit before we move on to other games around the Southeastern Conference today. Alabama and Missouri is getting ready to kick off at noon Eastern, 11 Central. But this Ole Miss Wazoo game is interesting. And I talked about the trap game and all the sloppiness that can happen. And you mentioned the spread and that Ole Miss should probably hit it and all of that. I think there are several keys in this game. One is Kewan Lacy and the edges of the Washington State rush defense. When somebody is as good as he is at forcing other teams to miss tackles, and the other team is not very good at tackling right now, that feels problematic.
It does. And I think to compound that even more, Ole Miss's interior O-line is salty. Townsend, Kutas at the guards, Sanders at center. I expect them to get a pretty good push inside, and he might be getting 3-4 yards before he's getting touched. That's going to be massive, especially on first down to set up second and third and shorts.
Yeah, I think it's important, even though you can completely unlock this Washington State defense with a running quarterback. Damon Williams did that for Washington a little while back. So Trinidad Chambliss, if he wanted to, he could run for 150 yards in this ballgame. That wouldn't. But I don't think you want to run Trinidad Chambliss in this game if you don't have to, because you want him healthy for what's coming and not get the bumps and bruises that could happen in this game.
I think you also have a very vanilla playbook today. It's about, getting ready for next week, like you said, you're not looking ahead, but you don't want to show anything too exotic or that you haven't shown on tape before in this game, because you want to have some things in the holster for Georgia.
Yeah, I know they used a lot against LSU with that game plan.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's already on tape, but I guarantee you there's something for Oklahoma. There's something for Georgia. The games on the schedule, there are 2 or 3 specific specialty plays that Lane Kiffin or Charlie Weiss can bring out from time to time when they need it. It's kind of like that 4th down that they completed the pass to Daquan Wright where he was wide open. Lane Kiffin knew he had that formationally and the leverage of the defense and what could happen. Just keep that in the holster until that, and they've never seen it, and boom. And all of a sudden he's wide open, sit down, ball game's over. I think there's something like that for Georgia, for Oklahoma, for South Carolina. Probably not for the Citadel, but we will see exactly how that looks. Now, defensively, I think this is interesting because Ole Miss's pass defense this season, other than the Arkansas game, we're going to put that caveat there. That's the one team actually that got to Ole Miss for at least a half. Second half, they were much better, but the first half, they were awful. But they gave up 80 yards passing against Georgia State. They gave up 150 yards passing to Kentucky. They got Jake Retzlaff pulled in that game against Tulane, and everybody saw what happened with Garrett Nussmeier throwing for about 180 yards in the game. The secondary, for what was going to be a problem unit going into the season, has been pretty good this year.
Yeah, it's odd that you worded it that way. You're right, but saying Arkansas is the one team that had some success there, they're the worst defensive front in the SEC. I don't know how they were the team that did it and nobody else did. Like that's something we might never know the answer to. Maybe it was just a bad game by the Ole Miss D-line, but they've been very good at protection outside of that game. And like you said, they figured it out later in the game.
Yeah. And, going their secondary against the Arkansas offense, against Taylor Green. Taylor Green's a good player.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a salty guy. He will throw you the ball, and Ole Miss dropped 3 interceptions in that game. If Ole Miss catches those interceptions, they probably win 41-17, and we're not even talking about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's he's a guy that has turnovers in him, like a lot of your QBs who are decent, not great, do.
The interesting thing that we bringing that up, it made me think of it. This is a pretty good game to get the explosives going because Ole Miss has 5 sacks on the season. They've played good defense. They're only giving up 18 points per game. They're doing the stat that matters, and that's points on the board. But they're not creating explosives, meaning turnovers, more than about 1 per game. They're not sacking the quarterback. Now, Washington State over the last 3 games has turned the ball over 9 times, including that disaster game against North Texas. I think this is a game, if you want to look at something to watch for in this game, it's can the Ole Miss defense start to get home when it comes to getting to the quarterback? Can they create explosives in the secondary?
And your 2 leading sack guys on the team right now are your heavies in the interior D-line with Harris and Eckhous. You usually don't expect that. You're expecting guys coming off the edge who are going to lead your team in sacks. So, yeah, it's something they're playing well. They're just not getting sacks. So that would be something nice to see this game.
Yeah, they get some explosives and starting to get the feel goods ready before they go to Georgia. That would be a pretty big deal for this defense. Anyway, when we come back, we are going to jump into your comments. Be sure to comment and put where you're commenting from. We want to holler that out. And, of course, if you are in Oxford and you see the mayor of Corinth, tell him, hey, welcome, congratulations, welcome to Oxford, all that good stuff. Go up and say hi to him. He would appreciate the heck out of that. But when we come back, your comments coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing time, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds, cultures, and keep the game moving forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward because it was a bye week for Ole Miss was Lane Kiffin going full coach speak, doing whatever he could to remind people that they are playing Washington State this weekend. He did a masterful job of that. And we'll see if they look ahead to the Georgia Bulldogs after being 33-point favorites over the Washington State Cougars. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Mike, let's get into the comments section real quick. What's going on? We got a bunch of let's go and stuff like that, but we'll hit some questions before we get out of here. JC says, I believe Ole Miss will cover the spread in this game. It's going to be like Tulane all over. My opinion on this, JC, is with everything going on and this being literally a classic trap type ball game, I do think Ole Miss is going to win the game. I do think Ole Miss is going to win the game handily, if we're going to be honest about it. But I do think this game is at least going to start off sloppy. And because of that, maybe Ole Miss doesn't get a touchdown or two that they normally do. I predicted 48-17, which if you do the math and if my Simpson County, Mississippi math is correct, that is not enough to cover. What do you think, Mike?
I hate picking the big spreads in these games and picking the winning team to cover. I actually think Ole Miss does cover this one, though. In looking at Lane Kiffin's the last 10 games he's coached in where the spread's been 32 or more, he's 8-2 in those games. So I think it is something in his mind that whether he's cognizant of it or not, they like doing that. And I don't think you get to that 8-2 without being aware and wanting to do it. It probably is too much for a coincidence. So I like him to cover as well.
Yeah, and like I said, whenever you look at Jimmy Rogers and the South Dakota State dynasty that was built, you're going to deal with somebody that can coach the game on the other side. Yeah. I mentioned on my show, this is a Jimmy's and the Joe's game because very rarely does Lane Kiffin coach against somebody that even has the chops to match up with the coaching staff battle. Jimmy Rogers, he's a bright guy. He's a really bright guy. And he's only going to be at Washington State, in my opinion, as long as he wants to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely accurate. To me, he has the makings of a guy who in a couple years gets them to 8, 9, 10 wins and then gets a Big 12 job.
Yeah. He's like the next Kenny Dillingham or
when Chris Kleiman takes the job at Iowa or Wisconsin, he goes to K-State, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Or it might be weird, but I think he would be a fit at Oklahoma State, even though it's a quick turnaround, but I don't know if he's going to have the success this year that they can get away with doing it, but that would be a good fit.
I think you're right. Yeah. I don't know that happens after 1 year, especially with the record we're expecting Wazoo to have.
Yeah, they're probably going to end up this season. Well, let's look at that real quick. They're 3-2 right now. They have 2 games on their schedule against Oregon State, who is winless right now. So that gets them to 5. Yep. That just means win one more game. Now they go on the road to Virginia next weekend.
It's a salty team.
Yep. Yeah, it's a salty team. So they're likely going to, after that game, be 3-4. You have the 2 Oregon State games.
Toledo's one of the best MAC teams. That's a coin flip game.
Yeah,
especially that Toledo team runs the ball well and it has a good defense. It's not a good matchup for Washington State.
What's the other one?
Louisiana Tech, who's better than we expected, but got their ass kicked on Thursday by Kennesaw, and then at James Madison, who might win the Sun Belt. So the schedule's not easy either.
Yeah. But 6-6 is on the table. That's the point.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
And
that's probably got to get both against Oregon State.
No, you definitely have to get both against Oregon State. But the fact that we had a Tech team that we saw against Kennesaw.
I know.
Oh, they were bad. And Louisiana Tech scored first, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I forget if it was 7-up, but it was either that or 7-7 early on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely nuts. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Alex Hazelwood says, let's go. Pat Chapman says, let's go. And of course, Hunter says he hates that he has to work on Saturdays and won't be able to watch the game. Mike Biggs says he's from Norman, Oklahoma. The only way Wazoo wins is with an Ole Miss sleepwalk, but I remember the Southern Miss game in 1970, Archie's senior year. Yes, I get that. All of that stuff. I don't think Ole Miss is going to sleepwalk because a lot of the leadership on this Ole Miss team was around last year for Kentucky. So not everybody last year's team was cocky. They were very egotistical. This team feels a little bit more workmanlike. I mean, heck, you have a D2 starting quarterback, and it's weird to think of, but Trinidad being the figurehead of that team, he knows how to play as a favorite. He knows how to play these games, even though I guess they're going against Harding or whoever that D2 team is in their level. You still have the ebbs and flows of what's going on. I think Ole Miss is going to be in pretty good shape in this game.
Yep. Last year's team was an 11-1 roster that missed the playoffs.
I think they were 12-0 roster.
Yeah, they could have been. Yeah.
Because let's see, they were better than Kentucky. They were better than LSU. LSU led only the play that they won in overtime, and they were better than Florida. If they would have kicked field goals in that game, they would have beat them. Yeah, they were 12-0. So Richard Woods, Hottie Toddy from Hernando, Mississippi, and Mike Biggs says Ole Miss can't play like Tulane did Thursday night. Definitely not, but Tulane did win that game. This is just win the game. Style points, in my opinion, no longer matters for Ole Miss.
Yeah, you're right. That's
if
true.
By 1 point, or if you win by 40, if you win the rest of your games, you have everything in front of you. You have done enough to get to the point. Now, you can't lose the game because if Ole Miss lost this game, they would drop them out of the top 25. You wouldn't get the grace that other people are getting. But if Ole Miss just wins the game by 3, you might drop down to 5. But if you win the game in Georgia, you're going to go straight up to number 2 or 3 anyway, and it just doesn't matter. We'll see exactly how it goes. Tulane's got a good team. Did you see John Summerall's post-game interview?
I was going to mention that when you were talking about Tulane winning. Like he wasn't too pleased with how they played that game.
No, he's like, they're driving me crazy. They play unbelievably sloppy and can win games. He's like, I'm so mad right now, but we won the game.
Yeah, I'm happy with how we won the game, but I'm displeased with how we played, and that summed it up because they did what they had to do to get the W. They didn't look good other than that.
All right, before we get out of here real quick, what do you think in the South Carolina LSU game?
So I think the Gamecocks cover that 9.5. I would be surprised if they win, though. I think we're looking at a 21-17, 27-20 type game where there's a lot of defense, but neither offenses look great this year. So I don't think we see many points in this game. And I don't know if either team can run the ball against anybody.
Yeah, I think it's averaging right now this season one SEC team losing per weekend at home, one home team, SEC home team losing. And I'm trying to figure out who the home team is this week that is going to get beaten. It might. The one that freaks me out that I just will not take and I'll stay away from is Texas A&M.
Yeah, that Florida game is, and I've been talked about it a little bit on the group show. That spread of 8.5 is so weird to me. Like that was the toughest one for me to pick of the week.
Yeah, we'll see what's up. Anyway, thank you for stopping by, Mike, and everybody going to the game or at the game. Please be safe heading home. Get home safe. We'll have a reaction show right after the game. Please tune in for that. But thank you for stopping by, Mike, and we'll talk to you later, buddy.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it is completely free. Your support means the world to us. And another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV are presenting College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's panel of local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you after the game.